Now, hi everyone. Let's see if we got a good connection here. Let's see. My flowers kind of straight. Yes. Hi Mona. Hello Nazanin John. Hi. Hi Gola. Hi Fateme. Hello. Hi Beiruz John. Welcome. What day is it today, Jeff? Wednesday, guys. Hello. Do you want to say what was the plan for today and what happened, Jeff?
The plan was coffee and sunrise. So I picked her up at 6.
You got to move a little bit more.
So I picked her up at 6:30 and a.m. got up real early and ended up driving to the coast. And now we are here in Temescal Canyon Park, right by Malibu or Santa Monica. I guess it's more Malibu than Santa Monica.
It's in between.
And that's where we are. We're in a park by the beach.
Hi, Jeffrey. Hello. Okay, here's the deal, guys. Remember, we had a little miscommunication in our last episode when Jeff was telling me that he wanted to bring me coffee, and I kept thinking that he wants to buy me coffee. I didn't know that he wants to brew his own coffee. So I got the first coffee from Jeff today. Can you tell them, Jeff, about this coffee?
Yeah, so I helped let me start over. I was going to the farmer's market near me every Sunday for years, and there was a coffee roaster that was there who's local here in Los Angeles, is Forge Coffee, and I was buying his beans just to make coffee at home, and I got contracted to help a shop open a coffee program, like with an espresso machine and all that stuff. And so I asked my friend Doug, who owns Forge Coffee, if he would consult on the coffee and help me pick out the right machine and get everything up and running and teach everybody how to make really good coffee, which he did. And as a result, I learned how to make really amazing coffee because I never knew how to make coffee other than...
It's really different, guys. By the way, how do you like my flowers from the Temescal Canyon Mountains? Sorry, go
That's
ahead.
okay. Yeah, I never knew how to make coffee other than just putting it in a machine and hitting go. And then he taught me how to use a French press, and then my French press broke, and I ended up buying the equipment to do what we call pour over, which if you are a coffee fanatic, a pour over coffee is kind of where you end. If you're you literally pour hot water by hand over the coffee grounds, and got really nerdy about it because I don't know how to make it any other way. So this guy taught me. I literally started using my kitchen scale. I use the timer on my phone, and so I literally sit there with whether it's a cup or a carafe where I'm going to catch the coffee in, and I grind the beans fresh, and I have it sitting on a scale, and I take a kettle and literally pour the water over the grounds by hand. And there's lots of people that do this. You can go online and look up pour over coffee.
But last time you were telling me about the iodine in the water.
Oh yeah, there wasn't. Yeah, so I took it a step further. I've been using like a pure filter on my kitchen faucet, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with using a pure filter on your kitchen faucet. And last time I was picking up some beans, that's what I was telling you, I think, is we were talking about habits. And I said, I just bought all this coffee. So when I bought all this coffee from Doug this last time, he was telling me that there's a company that makes little mineral packets specifically for coffee, which I ordered off of Amazon. And so now I'm buying distilled water and adding these mineral packets, and you have perfectly mineralized water to brew coffee with, which is now what I'm using instead of the filtered water with the pure filter. Now I'm actually using this distilled water with these mineral packets specifically for coffee, and doing the whole thing with the scale and the timer, and in a
Oh
certain
my
amount
God,
of time, getting a
talking
certain amount
about
of water
OCD.
to.
Guys,
It's crazy.
I'm using cardamom in my coffee because I take black coffee in the morning, 2 or 3 of them, and I use cardamom because cardamom I takes that acidic the acid in the coffee.
Cardamom reduces
Yeah,
acid
the
in
acid
coffee.
from the coffee. Yeah. And then also, if you want to get rid of more acid and make it more, it doesn't become alkaline because coffee is so acidic. But anyways, if you add a little bit, like a teaspoon of coconut oil and cardamom in it, it neutralizes a little bit of the acid and makes it sort of alkaline. Yes.
I believe that salt, like a pinch of salt, does that too. So whether it's cardamom, salt, coconut oil, you just got to decide if you want to do that, if you're going to do that, if it's worth the flavor trade-off. That's up to you, right? It's whatever works best for your body or doesn't work for your body.
Yeah, so guys, Jeff picked me up 6:30 a.m. and we got here almost by 7 a.m. We start hiking and then we didn't have a reception. We lost our reception. So we have to walk down all the way here so we have a reception and we can do a live for you guys. But we're going to talk about, what did I say we're going to talk
You
about?
wanted to talk about the Matrix.
Matrix, yes.
I'm not sure what I'm going to add to her conversation about the Matrix. She's going to talk, and if
Yeah.
I'm going to listen. If
But
there's
if
something
you
I
don't
can add,
mind,
I'll
I
add it.
just want to show them where we're at right now. Look here,
We're in a
guys.
beautiful clearing.
Yes, I
Seems
might
like
have
kind
to
of a
get down.
picnic
Sorry.
area. There's benches everywhere.
So you see the view here, guys. And listen to the birds.
And squirrels. Lots of squirrels in
And
the trees.
squirrels. Let's embrace. Love to hear from Jeff. I think Isabel asked you last time, are you single? Isabel is saying it's lovely to have you. Jeff, yeah. Yeah, Jeff, are you single? You wanted to talk?
Am I single?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
He's
currently
single and
dating.
available and looking for a girlfriend, right?
Yeah. Looking for a girlfriend or, dating, staying single and dating and seeing who's out there.
Yeah. He's looking, guys. So, yeah, everybody's looking. Everybody's looking. Beautiful. You hear the bird, guys? Oh, I'm sorry. Isabel said I have 2 boys. Okay. Now, I'm gonna put this here. Is this the right place?
Oh, it's
Hey
all
guys,
on me. I think we need to turn it
I
towards
didn't
you.
know how amazing Jeff was with lightings and cameras and all this good stuff. I just find out myself a good camera guy. So let's talk about the Matrix. What's your thought?
I think you need to start this one.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure that other than the movie, I'm not sure that I know exactly
Yeah. So
what you mean by the Matrix.
Nah. Okay, somebody's saying something in Farsi. Okay, good. Jeff is a good friend of mine, guys, and he's very safe. I think this guy said, "Don't get too close to Jeff. Come on the other side." I'm just saying that you're a good friend of mine, so he's very safe, guys. No worries. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about our topic today, Matrix. I believe we are in the Matrix because somehow it seems like we think we're in control but we really aren't. Like, sometimes I ask myself this question about, do we really have free will? Do we, yes or no? Some people think yes, of course we have free wills. Some people say no, we don't. I believe, this is my belief, but I could be wrong, that before, as a soul, we reincarnate here, we choose. Like, this has been my experience when I had near-death experience, that when I was sitting with my guides before I was coming back again, reincarnating, I had a choice. Like, they were asking me, okay, this time what classes do you want to take? And it's like, okay, abandonment issue, self-love, and blah blah blah. I believe we have free wills before we come, but once we make our choice, then the guides are also guiding us. They're like, are you sure about that? Are you sure, like, this is not too many classes? Can you handle it? And as a soul, I would choose, like, yes, I can take this class, or no, maybe it's too much, I'm gonna drop some of my classes. But then after we come back here, it's just like that thick veil comes, and we forget about all our, what choices did we make, what classes did we choose, and then we get involved in our mind ego, and then we just butting heads. We don't know what we're doing and what's going on. The unclarity start to showing up. But once we come down here, it often feels like we choose something and we think, oh, I want to do this, and I want to go after my career, and I want to do blah blah blah. But something changes. So hear me out, guys. You might argue with me, because I'm doing coaching for so many years, and so often I feel that a lot of us as a soul, we have some dreams and some goals, but that is not for us. Like, how can I explain it? Tell me if you hear this or not. For instance, since I was a little child, I always felt that I love acting. I wanted to be an actress. Like, since age 4 or 5, when I watched a movie, I would choose a character and I would play with that character the whole time during the movie, right? And I thought that I want to be an actress, but it took many years. And after like year 2000, I said, I'm going to pursue acting, because if I die tomorrow, is always that feeling that what if I tried it, right? But then again, I got into acting, I became union, I became SAG, I got some short parts, I got on theater, and I experienced it. But that wasn't something for my soul. So I believe that as a soul, we come here with some mission, something that we come for. But when we look at other people's lives, like when I look at Julia Roberts, I might say to myself, oh, why can't I be like her? Why can't I be a successful actress? And I need to understand that that was for her soul. That was the choice before the agreement and the soul contract for her, but that is not for me. So it doesn't matter how much I try and put effort in, and how much money I spend on acting coaches and blah blah blah, because it's not my soul plan, I can't have it. Am I clear? Do you see what I'm saying? You're very
clear.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We make these choices before we come here, and I think where we go, when we get confused, is like, oh, I really love this, and law of attraction, whatever you think about, you imagine, you feel, and you send out that energy out. I tried this, guys, when I was pursuing my acting. I would go out at night and look at the stars and say, I saw myself, imagine myself that I'm winning the Oscar Predetermination. Jeff is very thoughtful right now. He's very deep into this conversation, right? So, yeah, I could imagine myself. I took acting classes, but I could only go so far. Then I would hit, and I couldn't achieve it anymore because that wasn't the plan for my soul, right? So now you can take over, Jeff.
There's a lot there. I think about the difference. I think about free will versus predetermination all the time. And I try to take in as much information as available. Unfortunately, a lot of information has been lost or destroyed or is hidden from us. And so we're only able to draw conclusions from the data that we do have available to us. What libraries do we have? What museums do we have? What governments allow? You know, we see things that are being declassified in the United States, but not all artifacts are, of course, in the United States. There's a lot of artifacts in the Middle East. I mean, that's the most important, arguably the most important region when it comes to human origins. So, to me, there's two pathways to begin this, and those two pathways, which are always argued, are evolution versus creation. Now, I've got two books that I need to read that have to do with evolution, and what I'm currently struggling with in both of these books seem to address, I don't know that they solve, I'm not going to say that they solve anything, but they address is the missing link. And what is the missing link? Well, the missing link is the link between cavemen and us as Homo sapiens, or as some people argue, Homo sapiens sapiens, that we're actually a subspecies of Homo sapiens. And we have Neanderthals, then we have Cro-Magnon, and then we have us. And if we...
Oops, Jeff, I want to stop you for a second. Is it okay if we continue our conversation as we're walking so they can see the whole views too?
Yeah, let's start in a couple minutes, though. Let's stay here for a couple minutes and then we can walk. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
So that, to me, is we've got we have ape men, and then we have Egypt. There's not a lot of in between, right? So I don't personally believe that there was nothing here and then there was humans. There was something here. So what I tend to believe based on evidence, and when I say evidence, the evidence that I'm looking at are evolutionary evidence and the different creation myths, because that's all we can call them, are myths. So when we look at, I don't care if it's Judeo-Christianity or Islam, or if we're looking at the Sumerian, I think that the oldest stuff that we have is written literally in stone or clay, where we have the Sumerian tablets and Mesopotamian tablets that predate paper and parchment. So when we look at those things, we see a very kind of dark history. We don't really have the same beautiful history that we would have in the religious texts. What we have is more of, there were gods that came here and they created us as servants to them to do various things and mine for gold or whatever. And I'm not saying I believe that or don't believe that. I'm just saying that's what those writings say. So to me, I use the word interference. That seems to kind of make the most sense to me, is that there were ape people, and then, or whatever there was, and then something came here and interfered with that and created us. Now, if that's true, then we are part animal, part deity, which is where we get, or of, I shouldn't say we're part deity, but we're part of this superior race that has these special, powers, which I believe might be where we're looking at the difference between our physical bodies and our flesh and the spirit realm. And this does get reflected in the religious texts, where the religious texts will talk about, last night I was talking with, my religious group about fasting, and we were talking about fasting and denying the human body, because when we deny the human body, and if you were to really cleanse, cut out stimulants like this delicious coffee, cut out alcohol, cut out sugar, which is arguably the most difficult, and you went on a very hardcore cleanse for months, you get to a pretty different place. You start to experience a very different reality in an altered state, like if you were drinking alcohol or coffee, but you're so sober, and your body is so...
So you're basically saying by fasting long hours.
By fasting long hours, days, weeks, months, that you achieve this altered state. That's this incredible sobriety and denial of the body, denial of the flesh, that we start to actually engage that spirit world more. The word to me is clarity. It's really, because I've done this once, and I just felt like I had access, and my brain was so clear and so sharp that it wasn't here. It was kind of larger than me. Now, that does occur to me that I feel like we do have this duality where we are having a animal, primitive, you've heard me talk about this, we have this primitive life that we're living as flesh and blood animals, and that primitive existence, which is evidenced by our primitive brain, because we have 3 brains, is concerned with survival, which is the flesh. It's concerned with food, so we can eat and not die. It's concerned with sex and procreation, so we can make more of us. That's what the primitive, that's it. Survive and replicate, survive and replicate, survive and replicate. Then we have the spirit, or the, in what we experience, and in that gets this idea of free will versus predestination, predetermination. Is there somebody else? Has it all been written for us? And here's where I end up going, where I can't go any further because my brain lacks the capacity to go any further, is if we have free will, then everything that we see and hear and experience is new at every moment, and it doesn't mean anything. There's no meaning to anything. When we start talking about meaning, it means that, well, this was meant, there's the meaning, it was meant to happen. Well, why are we sitting here in this park today? Well, it was meant to happen. Or it wasn't meant to happen, and we're just sitting here in a park talking, and our mouths are opening and sound is coming out, or it was meant to be here we were meant to be here and talk for some reason. Now, when we start looking at predestination, it's all been written for us, that is supported by the science of quantum physics. In the science of quantum physics, there's no past, there's no future, there's only present. It's all happened. And there is, just like there's enough evidence of alien encounters, extraterrestrial encounters, just like there's evidence of near-death experiences in the spirit realm, there is also enough evidence of people time traveling, of knowing that in the quantum field, the past and future doesn't exist. It's all done. It's all kind of right now. So in that way, it is possible, and we do see this again reflected in the religious texts through, prophecy, premonition, those sorts of things, that it's already happened. We already were sitting here. We just had to experience it. We already did this live. It already was written. It already happened. We just had to come, show up, and experience it for ourselves. Now, if that's true, and this is where my brain starts to run out of computing power, is where does free will exist in that? Because if free will exists and the past and future has already been written, then that means at every moment that we make a choice of our own free will, then it completely rewrites the past and future. Well, definitely would we rewrite the future, even though it's already happened. Well, how could the future already happen if we choose something different? That doesn't seem possible to me. And that's where my brain runs out of power. So that kind of occurs to me that maybe we don't have free will, because if the future has already happened, then the future's already happened and we're just experiencing it as we go. I don't know. That's kind of where I run out of gas.
Can I say something? This is the way I think. I believe in parallel universes, right?
For sure.
So I believe at each time when I make a decision, the universe splits. And let's say we were talking and you asked me, you said, let's go hiking at 6:30 a.m. to catch the sunrise, right? So if I would have said yes, that would be one universe, which we are experiencing it right now. And if I would have choose and say no, that would be another parallel universe. So I believe that are multiple universes, and all the possibilities they exist is just as conscious. Wherever I switch, when my conscious comes here, I'm feeling and experience this as my reality. This is the real world for me. But if my conscious switched the opposite, that I didn't make this choice and I said, no, I'm not going hiking 6:30 a.m., then that also exists, but I'm switching between different choices, between different parallel universes. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is kind of, that it's possible. There's also a little bit of insanity to that, to me, because when you think about, if that's true for every person, then every time somebody's born, there's an entire bazillion complete beginnings and ends that get created with every new baby that's born. That's insane to me.
Can I add something else here? This is the way I see it. In the multiple universes, because I think our mind is just, we have this amazing mind and can create and all this stuff, but I think our mind is not capable of understanding that there are multiple universes, and in all these multiple universes I live as a different person, experiencing total. It's not just for me, is because there are so many. Imagine like there are hundreds of universes, and in every universe, like in this universe, I'm Sudi, I'm doing a show and blah blah blah, I'm a coach. In another one, I'm a doctor. In another one, I'm a hunter. In another one, so I believe there are multiple universes, and we are just, wherever our conscious come, we experience that. So at this moment, just because my conscious is tapping here, I am experiencing this moment, doing this live with Jeff. But as soon as my conscious switched to another universe, I'm probably a doctor doing a surgery.
I'm smiling because my favorite thing is, I don't think we have the power. I think that's what you said. I don't think we have the brain capacity to understand. And that's why I said, like, if infinite universes, and every time like I said, every time a baby's born, then there's a whole nother bazillion universes that just got created. And I mean, that just seems so beyond our capacity. Now, one thing that's interesting to me is that we know that, and part of the reason why we meditate and part of the work that we do in this space is that we can visualize, and by visualizing we create a potential. And then there's all of this theory as to how to actualize that potential, which is typically the theories that are typically taught is through emotion and through feeling, and so through emotion and feeling, making it real. So if money is just a very simple example to use. So if somebody says, I want to win the lottery, they have to visualize themselves winning the lottery, but then they have to feel it. They have to feel like they already won. And this is, if you follow any of the
I
schools.
told you that doesn't work, Jeff. So many people are practicing law of attractions and they're not getting it. It's much more, I think it's much bigger than me. Thinking about something, imagining it and feeling it, and it happens. I think that's I think it's a lot more into it than what we think. So if you're saying that, have you experienced that? Have you thought about something, imagined it, and really felt it, and sent out that vibration, and boom, it was there, it happens?
There are times in my life that things have occurred to
By the
me.
way, Isabel always agrees with you. Okay.
There are times in my life that things have occurred that seem to have been incredibly timed, and that's something where everybody has to decide what they believe, because you either believe that there's meaning to things, or you believe it's all random coincidence. And there are enough things that have happened in my life that it's pretty difficult for me to chalk it all up to random coincidence, because if we chalk everything up to random coincidence, then I think spirituality is garbage, because it's all just random. It's all just like the fact that we're sitting here talking on the phone right now has no meaning. It's completely random. There's nothing. It was not predetermined, predestined, or any of that. We had no influence. We just showed up and we just did this, and we're just a couple of bags of flesh floating on a rock in space. And that might be true. That might be true. But if it's, I think where we're going with this part of the conversation is that if there's multiple realities, there's people, because in your experience, you're saying that there are beings that are kind of trying to influence us, whether that's spirits, guides, angels, demons, God, or other gods, depending on how we look at it. Those beings have their spiritual fingers pulling strings of our lives, but then there's this idea, and you're saying you don't agree with it, but this idea of, well, can we as human beings meditate, open our chakras, engage in our auras, engage this energy that surrounds us, engage this quantum field that surrounds us to actually influence our destiny and manifest our destiny? The other argument is, well, then if I were to say, I'm going to get into opening my chakras, and I'm going to get into meditation, and I'm going to get into manifesting destiny, that there are beings that were like, no, we were controlling that Jeff was going to get into that right about now. So we're actually the ones that are creating this and doing this. He thinks he's doing it. He thinks he's getting into meditation. He thinks he's getting into manifesting destiny. But really, we have this whole plan the whole time. I don't know. These are possibilities that float through my mind. That's
Well, here's what I'm saying, guys. I mean, write a comments. How often you guys really, really had a dream or wish, and then you thought about it daily, you imagined it, you lived it, you felt it, and it became your reality. Write a comment. Let me see how often. If that's the case, then why is everybody not living their dream life? I mean, don't you know all these things, Jeff? You know that.
Well,
yeah.
I think that goes with what we're talking about the flesh versus the spirit, because again, even in, like I said, even in religion, there's this idea of like fasting and like engaging your spirit, denying the flesh. People, even when people do like ayahuasca retreats, they are told, because I have friends that have done this, they are told to abstain from everything for like 2 weeks. They're like, no alcohol, no coffee, no sex, no anything. If you can go without sugar, go without sugar. Like, go without everything. Deny your body all these things so that your body can be as pure and potent as possible. So when you go to the ayahuasca ceremony, your body is the most prepared it could possibly be to go into this altered state. And I think that one of the reasons why we lack the power to access this is because our flesh is so consumed all the time. And what I mean by that is, we can go, if we're hungry, we don't eat one meal a day, or one meal a week, or every few days. If we're hungry, we want a snack, we want something to drink, we just go into the kitchen, we open the fridge, we do whatever we do so we can tend to our physical need for hunger at all times. Even if we're not hungry or thirsty, we just want to enjoy a cup of coffee because it tastes good. We want to enjoy an alcoholic beverage just because it tastes good. Well, now we've got the beverage that we just felt like enjoying. Our spirit didn't need that. Our body liked it. And now we've got the stimulant or the depressant with the alcohol or the caffeine, and then if we smoke cigarettes, if we smoke weed or whatever, all of these things are things that just affect us. We have screens that we're looking at.
What are you getting at?
That we are consumed with distraction. Even electricity is a distraction. So if you went on, we don't know, because people aren't doing this on a regular basis, that let's say we take all this knowledge that we have, and for the next month, we're going to go live in a tent with no electricity, no technology. So we're going to deny ourselves any sort of stimulant, no caffeine, no tea. We're not going to have any depressant. We're not going to have alcohol. We're not going to smoke any weed. We're not going to smoke any cigarettes, anything that would affect our body. We're literally going to go live, no sugar.
Got it.
In no technology. I think that what would happen is after a month, we would be in a very different mental state. And I think that in that mental state, we might have access to influencing, to connecting and influencing with that realm, spirit realm, quantum field, whatever, in a much more pure and true and powerful way. In my experience, and this is just a simple experience, this time that I did this cleanse, I had a band and I was writing music. And I remember coming back into a rehearsal, and my band was like, they couldn't even believe the music that I was writing. And they're like, how are you writing this music? And I'm like, I'm on this cleanse. And they're like, well, you're crazy. Like, you have access to something right now. And I did. I had access to a level of creativity that I didn't have access to otherwise, and I haven't had access to since. So, but I was still working, so I still had the distraction of bills. I was living with my girlfriend at the time and taking care of our dog, so I still had these distractions of survival of the flesh. Girlfriend, dogs, work, money, pay the bills, all these things. what technology, what if we took all of that away? Because I had that level of access and connection just cleansing my body. Well, what if I cleansed my mind of the other things? Again, not with the girlfriend, not taking care of the dogs, not taking care of the bills.
Question, Jeff. Now that you have that experience, are you living that and doing that every day?
No, because I'm
Why not?
consumed in this regular life every day. And especially in Los Angeles.
That's my point. What's stopping you from living that altered state and cleansing? What's stopping you?
I just haven't done it. Nothing's stopping me. I just haven't chosen to do it.
Why not?
Because I like my cup of coffee.
It's not just about the cup of coffee. It's about the whole thing. So this is what I'm thinking. We at, like when what you call the flesh, in this 3D, when we're experiencing the full body, this is my hand, I'm feeling myself, right? In this third dimension, everything is so dense that is very hard for me to dream, imagine, and create. Once I move up a little bit, even to the fourth and fifth dimension, when the density of my body become a little more transparent, and I move from the mind ego to the spirit, as the spiritual being that I am, then at that level I have full access, ability, and capability to create my reality. So that's exactly my point. Down here, you're still involved, your mind and your ego is telling you, well, you need this cup of coffee. Oh my God, this, you can't give it away. You can't give away the salt and the unhealthy. It tastes so good because you're here in this dense dimension. But if you start doing, when you're doing the ayahuasca journey, or you're cleansing your body and you're not eating as much, you move up from the mind ego, you switch to the spirit, and then in that level you understand that, oh my God, so this is what it really means, that I am the creator of my reality. Then you have access to create. But here's the thing, guys, surprise, surprise. I have experienced that state a lot. Here's the deal. The minute you switch from the mind ego into the higher realm spirit, then all your dreams and wishes become transparent too. Like they become like open, like the dust. You don't have any more needs and desires. So you see what I'm saying?
I think we said the same thing with different words.
Okay.
I think we said the same thing with different words. And I do, the very last thing that you said is really important, because I think that we do live here, you said, in this dense reality. And in this dense reality, we want things. I want a bigger house, or I want more money, or, you know, these are all material things in this dense reality. And again, this is the same conversation I was having last night, is we think that we're going to go to this place to bring back things to this place. And once we get to that place, especially if we go through all of this work of denying the body, you know, and like of the stimulants and the depressants and all those things and the sugar and all that, once we deny ourselves and we get to that place is so rare, because we don't do that as a regular basis, that when you experience that feeling, you just go, I just want to be here. And you don't crave anything, because it's exactly what you just said. Your body, once you go through the physical withdrawals and you learn to going without sugar, cleansing my body of sugar was the hardest withdrawal I've ever been through in my life. I wanted to kill for sugar. I mean, not literally, but like, it's like if you had sugar, I was going to come after you and get it. Once those cravings were gone, it was like I almost craved nothing. And once that to me is like these flesh cravings, these earthly cravings. And if you can deny all of those cravings to where you no longer have cravings, then when you're, like you said, when you're in that kind of spiritual realm, that spiritual dimension, you're not thinking like, well, how can I produce more for my earthly dimension? No, because you don't care anymore. What you want is to just exist in that space. It's kind of like when you're in a dream that you don't want to wake up from. It's like that. You're like, well, I'm really enjoying this dream. This dream's kind of totally fantastic. Why would I want to wake up and go back to real life? To me, that's how it occurs, is when you've gone into that spiritual space. You're like, it's so wonderful being there that you're not thinking about what you want to bring back. You're like, I just want to stay here. I don't want to go back to this spot of dealing with survival and dealing with food and work and bills.
So here's my question. On this, where we are right now, on this third dimension, do we have free will or we don't? Because if I believe that I have free will, then why am I not doing the things that are intellectually I know they're good for me? Why am I not being motivated to wake up every day and do the right thing and to create? And can we start moving a little bit, Jeff? Okay, because I want you guys to start seeing what's going on here. Where's my turning? Okay, go ahead. I'm listening to you, Jeff.
You were talking.
Was I talking? Okay, yes.
We were coming full circle.
Yes, so basically free will. If that's the case, then why am I not doing the things that I think is right and good for me? And this question is for you, Jeff.
Because society is not built on that. And you can look at that one of two ways. You can look at that as far as it's just what is so and how things naturally evolved. Or if you tend to be a bit more of a conspiracy theorist about it, you believe that there are people in positions of power that wouldn't want us living there. They want us distracted with survival. I mean, if you were a powerful being and you knew about this whole realm, would you want the population of the planet to be incredibly powerful creators? Or would you want them to be consumed with survival and distracted with survival so that you could rule them? I know that's kind of a heavy question. And it's some people think that that's a very weird and wacky thought. And I'm not saying that I don't know anything to be true. But I know that that's how I would think. That if everything we're talking about is true, if we can... No, I'm all right.
You're good.
Thank you, though. If it's possible to influence the spirit realm, the quantum field, to manifest your destiny and create these changes, then there would certainly be people that have figured this out long before we were alive and talking about it. And they would have said, this is power that we don't want people to have. As a silly analogy, or a not so silly analogy, let's take it back to the very beginning, the Matrix. And I said, oh, look, there's a bridge. That's not a bridge, it's a tree. Going across that little creek or ravine. But, think about it. Think about the movie The Matrix. Because it's a really good analogy. I mean, that's what you started this whole conversation off, was talking about The Matrix.
Yes.
So, Keanu Reeves, Neo, gets ripped from The Matrix by Morpheus. Is that what his name, Morpheus?
Morpheus, yes.
Morpheus, Lawrence
Do you
character.
know what Morpheus means? Can you tell them about the character? The Morpheus is, the meaning of Morpheus is the god of dream. Isn't that in Bible? That's all the names that they use in Matrix, they took it from the Bible, or it has some meaning. But anyway, Morpheus means the god of dream. That's why
Okay.
Nemo, or what was
Neo.
his name?
Neo and
Wakes up from a dream, and he says, wake up from a dream to enter another dream. Here you go.
So
Thank you, sir.
So Neo gets ripped from the Matrix, and then he gets into that thing where they have to pull that thing out of his brain, and then he's given the choice of the red pill versus the blue pill. We'll give you the blue pill. You can go back to sleep and go back to your fleshly life, or you can take the red pill. And think about it. That's everything that we're talking about when you're talking about the Matrix is we have all, whether there's something physically implanted in us or not, that's not the point. But the idea is that I'm saying if it's possible, and the idea is that there is this kind of figurative...
I'm going to throw this in garbage. You can continue.
The idea is that there is this figurative red pill that we could all take, which is what we were talking earlier. It's not necessarily a pill, but it would be achieved through denial of your flesh, denial of your cravings for caffeine, for alcohol, for stimulants, for sugar, for food at all. And if we could achieve that, and you're saying, well, why? And then technology and work and survival, those are all things of our flesh body. So if there are beings that are in power, which in the Matrix there are beings that are in power, they don't want people to know, because Neo, all one man, caused a lot of problems, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just one person being ripped out of the Matrix, one person caused a whole lot of problems. So what if millions of people were ripped out of the Matrix and they all learned how to wield that kind of power? Well, man, what kind of problems would that cause? So that is where I would tend to believe that there are beings that are malevolent, and the best way to keep us from having any sort of power is to keep us consumed and entertained, distracted. That's the word, is distracted. We are distracted not just by survival, but what does the entertainment do? Well, the entertainment keeps us entertained while we are distracted and consumed with survival. It's like, well, here, we'll give you a super nice phone, and here's a nice tablet, and here's a nice laptop, and here's a nice computer. Basically, here's a bunch of nice technology to keep you completely distracted the entire time, so that'll give you some enjoyment, and when you're not, working and paying bills and whatnot, and, so that to me is just how we've all, and some of it's not malevolent, it's like, look, if we're gonna, people get together, there is the animal side, because we are flesh and blood beings, and so we start off in villages, and we have babies and raise families, and the tribe has to survive, the village has to survive, and all this happens. So it's not all malevolent, but I think that there definitely is. I think when we're talking about is there access to something, and where is that access, why aren't we living that access? I think that when you have people that pursue it,
Yeah.
a couple of things happen. It becomes about money. It's like, well, I'll teach you how to do it, but it's going to cost you money, right? Well, that kind of contaminates things a little bit. And, it's generally thought of as being weird and wacky, right? It's not popular.
Yeah.
If we said, oh, we're going to go to some retreat to deny our bodies and access the spirit realm so we can manifest destiny, they're like, oh, you're a bunch of weirdos. You're a bunch of those people, those weird hippie types.
Yeah.
that believe in that weird stuff.
Now, did you answer my question? Do we have free will or not? This, Jeff, this was the one of the path that we could have gone. That's the main one that they take. We didn't take this one anyway. Okay, so did you answer my question? Free will.
I don't know that we can. I don't know that there is an answer because again, if we believe that there are,
If I ask you, like, in a short note, just say, yes, I believe I have free will, or no, I don't
it
have
certainly feels like I do.
Aha! Feels
And
like.
here's the other thing, is that I think that lack of free will makes religion really challenging. Because there are some villains that did not necessarily choose to be villains. And that's tough for me because if you don't believe in any kind of free will, then you think about good versus evil and you think that evil was chosen for those people. And that's weird. So good was chosen for some people, evil was chosen for others, comfort was chosen for some, suffering was chosen for others, and that's really tough. And it makes belief in a benevolent supreme being incredibly tough. And I think that's where a lot of people become atheist. Because if you listen to the very articulate atheists, that's the number one thing they point to. The number one thing, the articulate intellectual atheists will point to is you sit there and you preach about your benevolent God, your all-loving God, when there's suffering and death and destruction, and some people just make it out wonderfully and some people are miserable and there's no rhyme or reason to it because it's all just chosen for everyone. That sucks. It absolutely sucks. It absolutely is terrible. So, you got to think that, I don't know, it's tough. These are big questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough because, even again, I can only speak I can't really speak at a deep level about any of the religions. I can't speak at a scholastic level about any of the religions. But even within Christianity, you have Judas. Judas is the one that betrays Jesus and tells the authorities where he is.
Is this becoming a Bible study?
No, but it talks. No, but this is the idea of free will, because that guy was a disciple, in the story, whether he was real or not. Let's just go with the story. This guy was chosen to be a disciple of Jesus and walked around with the guy. Okay, but then he betrays him, and Jesus is like, well, I know you're going to. And so that character, the character of Judas, presents an incredibly challenging philosophy on free will versus predetermination. Because if free will exists, then you're saying, well, this guy was tempted to do kind of a asshole thing by turning in his friend, and he turns in his friend of his own free will and pays a terrible price. He ultimately commits suicide. Okay. Now, if free will does not exist, and the strings were already pulled, it was already predetermined, well, where's the benevolence in that? Where is the benevolence in saying, we're going to take this guy who's been living a pretty righteous life and condemn him to hell because we need a guy to do that. We need a straw man to go down. That's terrible. Where's the benevolence in that? So these are the challenges that this question presents. it's you know, and there's no answer. So I don't know.
Can you read the comments and see?
There is a free will while we are in safe hands. Let's go.
Okay. All right, guys, we're crossing the street here. This street will lead us to the beach. This is Sunset Boulevard. I used to live here, guys. And this is an amazing place. I used to walk all the way from the top of the mountain. You see those houses? Let me see if I get them on top of the mountain. Yeah, you see those houses up there? I used to walk all the way from up there, coming down here, taking this street, which is going to lead us in about a mile to the beach, and then walk for almost 2 hours to Venice Beach. So we're gonna let you guys go, and are we going to Venice Beach, Jeff?
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to Venice Beach, so we're gonna get back with you guys up there. For now, bye bye. Think about the Matrix, and think about if you really, or do we really have free will. Bye bye. Till later.
Bye, everyone.
Did I leave? I'm going